What's up everyone, John from Beyond ARTV. It's time for another installment of Hate It or Love It. And on the chopping block today, we have Australian pop rock band 5 Seconds of Summer. Now a lot of people would call them pop rock, pop punk, but the arguments start there. There's a lot of things that get debated surrounding Five Sauce, and a lot of it is good debate. Some of it just gets into nonsense, but today we are obviously, because 5 Seconds of Summer, we gotta do 5 reasons why the internet hates them. Now, I'll weigh in with my opinion on each of these things, but keep in mind that the general points are the internet's points. I research online, I go to as many sites and data sources as I can, collect information, and then make 5 or however many points that I normally do per video, and then weigh in with my thoughts on each one of those. Now, 5 Seconds of Summer, obviously this Australian pop rock band here, have been at the center of some controversies since they put out their first record, their self-titled, in 2014, and now they have this new album, Youngblood, out into the world, which is getting mixed reviews. I mean, I think a lot of people are kind of conflicted on their new sound and the fact that they have a lot of new outside co-writers and that sort of thing. Everyone from Justin Tranter and Julia Michaels to some more established people like Jake Sinclair within the pop rock community. It's kind of turning heads one way or another. I don't know how you guys are feeling. Let me know in the comment section down below, and be sure to check out my review of the album over on my main channel. My main channel is linked in the description. Sorry for the long intro, I'm not rambling anymore. Drop a like on the video, and here is the very first reason why people hate 5 Seconds of Summer. Number 1, people just assume they're a boy band. In reality, they don't actually have the boy band status. They're not a One Direction, they're not a Backstreet Boys, an NSYNC, or whatever other boy band you can name. They actually play their own instruments. Everybody from Callum to Luke to Michael to Ashton. It's 4 boys, or 4 men at this point, in a band, not a boy band. I understand if it's genuine confusion at first and people just think that they're a manufactured boy band or something. They saw one music video, but come on, take some time, look into it a little bit, realize that it's not actually a boy band. Now, I'm by no means the biggest Five Sauce fan out there. In fact, I think a lot of their stuff is very predictable and forgettable, but I mean, they're not a boy band, so this one is just over and done with. Number 2, it's just a band for teenage girls. You gotta love it when the bros or whoever else hand down their decree of, well, if you're over the age of 15, 16, 17, whatever, and you still listen to this, then you suck, you're awful, and you're a loser. Like I said before, I'm not a big 5 Seconds of Summer fan, but I mean, if you're handing something down and just saying like, oh, this is the ultimate decree, which seems to be the case, especially with 5 Seconds of Summer. I mean, there's been a lot of forums that talk about them, and they're just like, wow, it's so cringy that my 14-year-old sister likes them. I mean, is it really that surprising? And is it really that bad? You could do a lot worse than 5 Seconds of Summer. I mean, sure, they get their inspirations from other people, and we'll get to that more with the next point, but they could do a lot worse. It's not just for teenage girls. I mean, even I can admit that they've got some good jams out there. I've seen fellow critics defending some of their songs, from Jet Black Heart to even like tracks off of Sounds Good, Feels Good. What was the lead single? Yes, of course, She's Kinda Hot. Still like that one. Now this is where we really start to get into some intense speculation and debate. Number 3, they're just a watered down version of other pop punk and pop rock bands, and they play a crappier version of that style of music, which was already watered down in the first place, because people say pop punk is watered down because it's just, more friendly to the mainstream than punk rock. And obviously if 5 Seconds of Summer are watered down versions of pop punk, then that just, oh man, that's a runny mess. People online have tried to connect the dots to their style of playing, to songs from Blink-182, a lot of other pop punk bands, even Green Day, some smaller ones, and I can, I guess, see a lot of those influences for sure in their music. In fact, a lot of the melodies sound very similar. The inspirations, the songwriting, or even the simplicity of some of the tunes, especially on their first 2 albums. They've branched out a bit more on Youngblood, but still with that, you can definitely tell that the songwriting gets a little bit cluttered, mixed, and just and drawing inspiration from somebody else. At the same time, I don't want to accuse them of just straight up copying, because I know that the guys don't just write everything themselves. They have other producers, other co-writers, and that sort of thing. But to say that their style is watered down, I can agree with, sadly. To an extent at least, I definitely feel that, and I've always felt like they've kind of been limited in what they do because they never really pushed anything all that much. They never carved out their own lane. Overly defensive fans is the number 4 point and the number 4 reason that I've found online for people to hate them. Fans for any boy band or boys in a band type band can be very, very aggravating to other music fans, because you go to a comments section and then you're just trying to watch something or you're trying to see other opinions, and it's just people screaming like, oh my god, Luke took his shirt off, or Callum is so hot, or Ashton, oh my god, those eyes, or whatever. So it gets annoying to people, and they are kind of idolized and even sexualized in that way for young girls and even young boys that look up to them, and not just in that way, but just them being cute or adorable or funny or whatever it is. And to a certain extent, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if they're not crossing any lines. Who cares? They're not hurting anyone. It's not my problem. It shouldn't be yours either. But when it does get annoying is when they start just screaming in the comments, whether it be on YouTube or replying directly to the band members on Twitter or Instagram, basically saying things like, "Fist me, Michael," or whatever, and the girl or boy looks like 13 or 15 in the profile picture. Little inappropriate, little bit creepy. It still goes on. I mean, I don't think we talk about those things enough, but it's weird. It needs to stop. And then they get overly defensive when you call them out on something like, hey, that melody sounds very similar to this, and it's like, no it doesn't, you know, they wrote this song all by themselves, and it's totally 100% original and authentic. When you start getting overly offensive like that, it makes you sound like one of those fake Louis Vuitton peddlers in the streets of New York City that runs off the second someone says like, oh, is this actually real? And it's like, oh no, I've been caught. And then you get all up in arms. It's just a tricky situation, because I know that you're young and that you love this band or whatever the other artist might be that you love, but getting overly defensive, it just gives off a bad vibe to a lot of people, and I guess that's why a lot of people do hate 5 Seconds of Summer. Number 5 is obviously a much more serious point because it is accusations of sexism. Now, the biggest case of this that I could find is the Rolling Stone interview that they did around Christmas of 2015. In that interview, Luke Hemmings actually talked about hooking up with multiple girls in one night, talking about the fact that on their early tours, they would just kind of basically find girls that were willing to sleep with them out on tour. And the way that they've talked in other interviews and that sort of thing, it seems like they definitely used their fame and the attention that they had on them, all the eyes looking at them, all the adoring girls that wanted to probably hook up with them, they used that to their advantage. Now, this is something that's gone on for decades, and my thing is that the way he went about saying it sounds very douchey, very arrogant, sure, but if it's consensual and they're not going out of their way to prey on somebody, especially if they're underage, I don't think that there was any accusations of that. But if it's consensual, I don't think that it's really bad. I don't think maybe it's the best thing in the world. And maybe, I guess you could claim that somebody's getting taken advantage of. But if everything is consensual, groupies have been a thing for a long time. If somebody really likes a band member, then if it's their body, then they have the choice to give it up. Now, if this is a situation that ever turned into anything else and they actively started talking about the fact that they're looking for women at the concert and picking somebody out and taking them backstage and kind of pressuring them into doing something, that would be different, but that's not what we're talking about here today. We've just heard a few instances over time of them being sexist because of them just sleeping with multiple women that have been willing to, so it's kind of the rock star lifestyle, I guess, but I think a lot of people are starting to basically say that that's no longer acceptable. I don't really know how I feel on this because I will never be in that situation, and I don't exactly know what situation they were in, so it's not truly my place to judge. But a lot of people jumped down their throats for that. They lost fans over that, and that's why a lot of people hate them. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hate It or Love It. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please drop a like on it. What other bands or artists should I talk about in the future on this series? And I do want to do some more love installments because it's been a long time since I've done one of those. So let's bring some positivity to it. Maybe 5 reasons why people love Paramore, maybe just around the corner. We'll see. Stay tuned. Drop a like if you do want to see that and other videos in this series. And make sure you subscribe and turn on my notifications because YouTube doesn't always put these videos in the sub boxes. A great way to help out the channel is to donate on Patreon. You can access that at the top link in the description or else the annotation in the corner. There's a lot of cool perks that you can get in return for donating. If you want to see another episode of Hate It or Love It, tap here, or another recent video on the channel right over here. All of my social media accounts can be found in the description, and I will see you very soon on Beyond ARTV.